As we enter in the dream state, we also enter directly in the spiritual realm. So, what's happening in the spiritual realm is actually what begins to manifest in the physical realm. Because everything happened first in the spiritual. And this is why it is very important to spend time analyzing your dreams, because if something happened in the dream state or in the spiritual realm that we don't want it to manifest in the physical, then we need to take steps and measures to block this negativity that is happening in the spiritual realm before it manifests in the physical. So when we are dreaming of witchcraft, dreaming with witches, with demonic dark forces, we have to understand that this is what is actually according in the spiritual state. So, I'm your spiritual informant, and today I'm talking about dreaming with witches and how witchcraft is performed in the dream state or in the spiritual realm. When we are sleeping, we are in the spiritual realm. So our dreams tell us directly of what witches or warlocks, sorcerers, and demonic and dark energies are doing to us in the spiritual world. Even though these dreams are heavily symbolic, there are certain things that do not lie in the dream. And that is energy. When you feel nefarious energy, when you feel dark energy, when you feel dangerous or omen in that, trust that spirit intuition, that to know that something is occurring in the dream as a spiritual stage that is going to require to attention in the physical state. I'm actually going to make dreaming of witchcraft entire series of how it's performed in dream and astral state, because it can't be covered in one video. I'll do it in a series of videos. Let's talk about how binding initiated in the dream state. But I want to talk about specific dream indicate that someone or something is trying to bind you in the dream or spiritual state. These someone can be groups of people, as in a coven, secret societies, or organization. Or these some things can be spiritual entities that actually do not or never had a physical form. So when we are talking about spiritual attacks and spiritual sorcery, these types of things can be done by humans or demonic entities, or by both. So let's talk about few dreams that will indicate that someone or something is binding you in the spirit. Before I talk about these dreams, there are a few things I wanted to make it clear to come to our spirit, which is one, there are spirits that they are extremely large and expensive. So the process of binding your spirit usually is a long-term process, as this can be something been occurring since you was a child. Especially if you have spiritual gifts. If you have spiritual gifts, there are spiritual forces knows that you have spiritual gifts. Even sometimes before you know that you have spiritual gifts. So in cases of people who are spiritually gifted or do it into big spiritual inheritance, you will experience a lot of spiritual attack, especially in the dream state. The second thing, since the spirit are very large and expensive, spiritual binding process usually take bits and pieces of the spirit at time. You may have experienced spiritual bind in the dream, but you wake up feeling totally fine or not missing anything initially. But the third thing I want to say about spiritual binding process is usually that they will bind the parts of your spirits that they are most powerful and most crucial to your overall prophecy or destiny. So let's say we are meant to come into a particular spiritual gift or awareness by the time that you are in a certain age. Usually within a couple of years you will come meant to approach that age, to approach or receive that spiritual inheritance, spiritual forces will begin binding parts of your spirit in order to cause obstruction to you reaching that particular level of spiritual awareness. And all of this is done for a purpose of soul fragmentation. Because if we can wield, embody, and tap into the full extension of our spirit, then we will be so extremely powerful. And this power would be threatening to a lot of these covens, cults, and the so-called powers that they are be. They have power because they have power, these cult and covens, they have power because the normal people, the normal population are not aware of the spiritual realm and what happened. So in the dream state, one, having dreams of running or being chased or trying to escape places, especially if those places are like labyrinth or a maze, or especially if those places are significant to places from your childhood, like childhood home or school, and especially if those places are the homes of someone else that you know. If you find yourself regularly trapped in someone else's home, then that's your sign that they are trying to bind you to them. And if that place is a place from your childhood, then that's your sign, and someone or something are trying to cause stagnation, delays, and denials in your life. Dream number two, maybe a bit more obvious, that if you are dreaming of being imprisoned, of you're dreaming you're having run-ins with law enforcement, if you dream detained by law enforcement. أنا عندي واحد دركي كان ضل يطلع لي في المنام. We're worried somebody is binding you, and these things are concerning if you never make it out of this prison, if you never make it out of that maze. Dream number three, a bit less obvious than number two, that if you are dreaming of traffic jams or of having accidents on the road, or where another vehicle has or from both sides hit you or hit you on, that's a sign that being spiritually binded and blocked by obstacles and by delays. When someone trying to spiritual to bind me, if you know my story, you will know who that it is. But like I dreamt parking in a parking spot and I cannot leave. So that's the symbolism of being parked, unable to leave, unable to move forward. So any times that you are dreaming about your vehicle and there's obstructions to your vehicle, that is most definitely a sign of binds and delays. And because our cars and our vehicles are symbolic of our forward movement and freedom and mobility. So I really always like to give solution, but when it comes to spiritual bind, it's very hard to give general universal solution for such an issue, because each bind is going to be different. It's going to be different entities, it's going different organization, while the reason behind the bind is going to determine how best to break the bind. Then, of course, how the bind is being initiated is going to have implication on how the bind is broken as well. I'm going to do a best general tips of how I am working to overcome spiritual binding in my own life. Like, yes, I talk about how expensive, how spirits are, and sometimes spirits can get binded and we are not aware in certain things binded. But if these attacks are regular and frequent enough, we will begin to feel those missing, fragmented part of our spirits. And so one of the main thing you need to do every day, especially when you wake up in the morning, is to call back your spirit and actually sit and receive that calling back. My process of calling back my spirit worked a lot with sound. Sound balls can work, sound frequencies of the balls, and you can also use a bell. With every bell there is a wing, and you ring the bell. When the spirit hear that bell, it will come running back into you. So I'm of course open to many of consultations and much more details to give it to you. But I want to tell you, maybe you see yourself as a little person, little me. But trust me, some of us, our spirits, if not all of us, are large, are are giants. Some of us are Nephilim, you know, like really giants in the spirit world, you know, like I don't like to talk, but I know myself. I know how large my spirit is from how many enemies I had all my life, feeding on my energy, feeding on my blessings, feeding, hiding behind my shield and healing abilities. I now realized how large my spirit is, and I'm in constant working to reach the maximum potential of that spirit, because it didn't come here just for a breath. Spirit is a breath and just pass away. No, it's a purpose, and one of that main reason is teaching you people that you are much more important than you imagine. You're not little me, you're not your body. You're a soul that contained in with an energy that is in your body, and the spirit contains them all, and you are awareness and consciousness. You're not what they told you you are. You are a Nephilim.